Good evening, everybody. Dr. Glow here with another amazing panel. So I'm so excited, you guys. I see I have my love for Africa because, for a month we are celebrating our people as I celebrate everybody every day anyway. That's why I call my business Black Girl Everything because we are Black and girls pretty much every day of the week, right? So I am excited about today. Why am I excited about today? Because, I have amazing women with me who are going to have what's the word I want to use? I don't want to, I'm more than just excited, right? I'm actually honored and thrilled for this particular conversation because of the way the world is going right now. To have these particular professionals to meet with us today to kind of share some stuff about their entrepreneurial journey. And this day and age is like this conversation is meaningful. So for those of you who are tuning in on Facebook, please share on your page. There's actual lives. Other people can tune in, comment with us. I can see your comments right now on the Facebook. And also for those of you who are watching on my YouTube channel, feel free in the captions, you'll find everybody's contact information to follow up with them. So we have two of our speakers on right now. We have some other people have some stuff come on. They're going to come on a little bit later, but we shall not wait. We're going to keep on moving because life waits for nobody. So for those of you who don't know me, again, I'm Dr. Glow. I'm the CEO of Black Girl Everything. And I'm here to kind of just bring meaningful conversations to the community. So let's start off with Natasha. Please introduce yourself. Let everybody know where you're from. What's the name of your business and what brings you here tonight?
Hello, all. I'm Natasha Halliday. I am a social worker in private practice in just east of Toronto in Canada. I'm also a college professor. I sometimes introduce myself and say I'm an and because I'm a stand-up comedian, a public speaker, college professor, and I'm a social worker in private practice. So I think that kind of encapsulates all that I do. But it all boils down to I love people and I love to contribute to bettering people's lives in any way I can.
That is amazing. That's dope. All the way from outside of Toronto. That's extra cool. We international day, y'all. Very exciting stuff. So I don't want to mispronounce your name, so I'm gonna try.
Go ahead. You get
Latania.
Yes.
Ha!
So
Anya.
say Latania, but it's okay.
Close enough. No, see, don't tell me I was right if I was wrong. So
No,
it's
you were right.
Latania. It was Latania, Latania.
Latania, you hit it right.
Latania. Oh, I was right. Okay, yay.
Yeah. Everybody else called me Latania, and I'm like, I'm sorry, who's that? But no, you get it right. Call me Latania, and I'm like, I'm sorry, who's that? But no, you get it right. Call me Latania, and I'm like, I'm sorry, who's that? But no, you get it right. Call me Latania.
You guys hear that repeating?
Yeah, I hear me.
You guys hear that repeating? Hello? Okay, it's going now. Technologies be out here bugging sometimes. So, so go ahead. Please tell everybody where you're from and a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Latanya Franklin, and I am the founder of a private practice called The Self Inside. The Self Inside is a space for Black women to heal from intergenerational trauma and racism. I am a licensed clinical social worker from Chicago. And honestly, my whole business came from my healing journey and learning about my own traumatic childhood, and knowing that I can't be the only person in the world that's feeling like this. And so like my quest is to really help other women. What I'm now saying with all the things going on in the world is really to get their mind right, because in order for us to, for me, I think in order for us to really like survive what's going on, I want for us all to be grounded so we can take care of ourselves and our communities.
Yeah, definitely. Keisha, hello, my love. It's good to
Hey,
see you. Thank you for joining us. So, Keisha, please introduce yourself and let everybody know where you're from and a little bit about your business.
my name's Keisha Cox. I am from New York. I currently live in Delaware, and I am the owner of the Wellness Connection LLC. And we are a group practice, and the mission is really to provide mental health services that are accessible and inclusive. So, with that said, we do mind, body, and spirit work. I'm licensed as a clinical social worker in Delaware, New York, and Connecticut. Also a yoga instructor, meditation teacher, Reiki healer. So I try to incorporate different approaches and meet people where they are because talk is important, but it's not everything. And I think people need to balance that with other aspects.
Yes, Keisha. Yes, I agree. I agree because once we try to be centered, like our body. Like I'm a touch type of person, so please, you want to therapize me, you got to touch me a little bit, right? Get close with me so I get all
Right.
my senses get involved in the process. So yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely agree. All
And
those
we
things.
also store a lot of things in our body. And I think, those of you who work with trauma know that, a lot of trauma is stored in the body. And if you ever like get upset or mad, you might notice that you tense up, right?
Yep.
You physically tense up and being able to work with that as well. Like you can't really get to the point where you're able to mentally process things if you're in physical distress.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Amen to that. I agree 1000%. So let's jump into some real riveting questions. Latanya, I'm gonna throw the first question at you.
Okay.
What inspired you to prioritize your healing and wellness within your entrepreneurial journey?
Honestly, I think it's for me, and I think for many people, it's all connected. It's
Mhm.
all connected. So if I'm experiencing negative thoughts first thing in
Yeah.
the morning, or if I'm finding some cracks that I am now understanding in the foundation of self-worth, I can't show up to my business the way that I want to.
Yeah.
And so really understanding, like, if I'm not feeling good, how can I show up for my clients? How can I show up to do events like this if I'm not feeling okay? And so a constant quest to really just making sure I'm taking care of myself, honestly. And it's daily because, again, because of my childhood, what I know about my own healing journey that started in 2015, it's a daily
Mhm.
quest to take care of myself. If I skip a day, I don't know what kind of therapist they gonna get, but I'm gonna show up.
Yeah. Yeah. I know how that is. I said to me this morning, I was like, I know this is going to be a week. So I started this morning in the gym, very intentional about
Mm-hmm.
it this morning because I know when I'm able to move my body, I'm getting that sensory input. I'm more balanced on a Monday morning because a Monday without me going to the gym first is not a fun Monday, right? It doesn't usually work for me. So no, I agree that like prioritizing my healing and my wellness and like taking time for self matters. I think that's one of the bigger conversations I had myself over this weekend is to prioritize doing the things that I want to do, not necessarily doing the things that I want to do for people,
That's
right?
good.
Yeah, it
That
was a
is
big message for me all weekend long, and everyone who I spoke to was still hearing that same message. So it was
good.
very affirming to realize that I'm, pivoting towards where I need to go, right?
Mhm.
Because sometimes we got to always check in with self,
Oh yeah,
always. So,
always.
Natasha, since you're up there in Canada, I like this question for you. How has your identity as a Black woman shaped your approach to wellness, both professionally and personally within your business practice?
I'll have that.
Talk to
Well,
me, girl.
I think part of it is when you embrace yourself, part of who myself
Mhm.
is a Black woman. And so I've had many conversations and I talk to people about what are the differences that we've seen. Most of us who I know in my age range in Canada, we're first generation Canadians or weren't even born here. So we are
Mhm.
heavily influenced by Caribbean or African culture because of we're not generations removed from that. Um, and so I look at, what my parents are from the Caribbean. What did healing involved? Lots of laughter, being around people, music, worship, prayer, church, community, food. That's part.
More food.
But
Mhm.
when I look at that, I then think, how do I bring that into my practice? And I've learned, despite learning systems of therapy from a very Eurocentric
Mhm.
perspective, I have to infuse who I am as a Black woman, as a Caribbean descent Black woman, and having clients seeking me for that a lot. Um, I can't exclude that. So I think I check in with myself about how do I see myself as a Black woman. And so I used to feel a lot of the times that I was going against the grain, that I almost wasn't professional sometimes in my ways that I interacted. But I'm like, I have to be me or else I'm not going to be of help. If I'm caught in this is the box, and I can't do the work that I need to do. And it doesn't allow me to, I love what Keisha said about mind, body, and spirit. Like, that's my perspective. I don't know how we can exclude a part of who we are. So I tell people, we don't have to share the same faith, but if you have a faith-based practice, please introduce me to it so we can look at how we can include that. I may not do all the things you do with your body, but how can we make that, like, I agree. Talk is not the only thing. We have to understand ourselves as complete beings and approach that. And I feel that culturally, that's part of why I approach healing the way that I do and the work that I do, is because I can't exclude aspects of who I am. And I'm okay to say I may not be the right person for a part of it. And so, how can I work together, or just know that you're working with somebody who can address something that I don't have expertise in? But I don't want somebody to feel that they need to silo themselves. And I don't want them to feel that they can't be their true self when they're present in session with me, or really trying to teach them to be present and their whole self anywhere they go. And so I think that's a lot of what culture has taught me. I am a loud Caribbean woman, and those who don't like it, too bad.
Yeah, Keisha, I'm gonna bring you that same question. For someone who is doing all the things within your practice, right? What about you as a Black woman has made this important for you to tap onto all the things that you feel work?
Well, I'm not doing all the things, but I do several things. And
Yeah.
I feel like, again, like it is part of just who I am and bringing myself to it. And I know what's worked for me, and I couldn't separate certain things, right? I couldn't say, okay, I'm going to address my mental health, but I'm not eating well and not sleeping well and not moving my body. So how am I supposed to feel good mentally if like all these things aren't in place? So I think culturally, I'm also of Caribbean descent, so definitely understand that. I think just um, again, like I don't do all the things. I have a group practice, and yeah, like if someone needs certain type of work, I don't want to do all the things.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has their gifts, so I work together with other clinicians, other wellness providers, and sort of allow them to do the work. At one point, I wanted to do all the things. So I think that that's part of it too, like balancing as an entrepreneur, especially when you're working in a field that you're passionate in, you want to like throw your whole self into it. And at some
Yeah.
point, I had to step back and say, like, just because first of all, I can't, but if I could, doesn't mean I should. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to sort of set those boundaries with yourself because otherwise you burn out and then you're no good to anyone.
Yeah, I agree about that. Hence, I had a whole checklist of things like, I'm just not doing that no more. I'm not doing this no more. Guess what? I don't want to do that either. Right. Because I want
Yeah.
to focus on my attention on what I really want to focus my attention on. Because we start splitting it too much, you really can't thrive in one particular area. Right. Because you
Yeah,
got to put your
exactly.
energy into it. So, yeah. So, Tanya,
Yeah.
how do you find balance with the work that you've been doing as an entrepreneur and also as a mom? New question that wasn't on the list. What you got?
Like, oh, how do I find balance? So I think two things. I think first, structure.
Yeah.
So my days are like super duper structured. I would say when I first had my son, so I'm so structured that if something goes not my way, or some client try to pop in and say they need a session, or somebody drop off, it would irritate me. So I would get
Mm,
so upset. So I was like, well, I have a schedule. Like, that's what a schedule is for. So I have relaxed after my son because, kids in daycare, they just sickness and pop up, a cough here.
mm-hmm,
They can't, daycare closed. And so I had to learn how to be flexible. So I have a schedule. I have a structure to my day.
mm-hmm,
It's also very flexible because sometimes I have to, it's very structured, and sometimes it's not going to be balanced.
yeah.
So the 17th or MLK, there was days where my son wasn't in daycare. So I'm leaning more into him. So I'm leaning more and
Mm-hmm.
not doing as much work. So I think the balance comes in with knowing that it's probably ain't gonna be too balanced depending on the day. But at the very root of it, I have a structure. So prayer time in the morning, 5 a.m. 24:35. If somebody, stay in their room the way they supposed to. I have my 5 a.m. prayer, meditation time, my time for me, get him dressed, off at daycare, workout. I got a personal trainer, leave my workout, come home, shower, maybe dance a little bit because, that helps get me ready, gets me grounded. And then I sit down for my sessions. And then it's evening time. I leave out of here and I walk right into there and playing with my son. So strict schedule so I can make sure, but absolutely flexible because I'm not going to be able to give my attention to everything all the time.
Yeah, no, I'm good at that. Like I schedule TV time in there. I schedule just sitting there doing nothing time. I schedule playing games on my phone, like puzzle games, like those types of things. Like I'm intentional about every single hour that I have. And sometimes I'm intentional to just to intentionally do nothing. Like I'm like, oh, this is going to be a nothing day where I wake up and it's kind of like, all right, so however it happens is how it happens and it's going to be okay, no matter what. Right. Because with, as an entrepreneur and, especially somebody like myself who runs multiple businesses, it's like, sometimes I just need to turn my whole brain off. Yeah. Just turn it off. Just turn it off. And it's like, whatever it is, my daughter's like, you want to eat 15 ices today? Knock yourself out. Just put some water in between it. It's like, 'cause I don't really want to think. And just let people manage their lives for themselves. And it works out. And I think that's one of the main things that I do is make sure I'm maintaining some balance, is really tapping in that time. Unlike Keisha, who travels the world exclusively. If you follow her, she's always out of here. Okay. I'll be ready to jump on her suitcase all the time. So Keisha, how have you focused on overcoming challenges as an entrepreneur?
I've given myself grace, and in hearing you ladies talk, I'm like, yes, yes, yes. I have structure, but also like being flexible and giving myself what I need. And there's days that I'm on it, and there's days I'm barely making it through, and just being okay with that. I think, in the past I've been like just go, 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 and I have to, I have to,
Mhm.
I have to.
Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur, even though I have goals, I don't have to do anything. And I remind myself, like, you don't have to do this. You're choosing to do this, so what do you choose today? And being flexible with that. And I think just, yeah, giving myself grace, being flexible and but also having a structure. And I have my goals, but it's not a race, right? I don't have to beat this timeline. I think, most of us feel like a lot of times that we're behind in things and we have to catch
Yeah.
up. And it's just like, it's not a race. Well, what are we behind in? What are we catching up with? Right? We're doing things
Mhm.
at our own pace. And I think that's something that I remind myself. And even when you were saying about like not doing all the things, and sometimes I want to do all the things, but I tell myself, well, you don't have to do them all at once, right? You can still do
Mhm.
them, but not all at once, and prioritizing. Um, so maybe, I focus on this part of the business for the next 6 months. And then next year I'll delve into that.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, also prioritizing, I think, is helping uh with the challenges.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. I remember when I started my nonprofit and I was like, oh, I'm gonna open a space. And then I was like, I'm gonna open a Black Girl Everything space. And then I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that right now. And I waited 2 years and decided to do
Right.
it because I had to wait for what timing is everything, right?
Exactly.
And timing has to be everything. So when you're trying to push something that's just not moving, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm just not gonna do that. Right. And I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we get so caught into, but I said I wanted to accomplish this now, not
Hmm.
realize that patience is virtue. Just chill out, keep planting the seeds, keep watering them, and things are going to bloom eventually because you're doing the work. Just do the work at like you say, give yourself some grace and like slowing down your pace a little bit, so you're not burning yourself out with the thought process of why I'm not winning, not realizing you are winning because you're keeping going in the first place, right? That's definitely dope. Thank you for that, Keisha. So, Natasha, right? So you live in a totally different community, right? And being within that community, right? Are you noticing that healing may be taking place within that space? And how is your organization supported individuals around their healing process? Because I know right here in our country right now, we're like on pins and needles in our current circumstances. But up there in Canada, how is healing going for folks just in general? Are they as overwhelmed and stressed?
Um, I can't say I can really speak to that because I don't know how stressed y'all are. in the States.
Got it.
I can appreciate how stressed you must be given what I'm seeing over here. What I can say is because I live in the region just east of Toronto, that's part of the greater Toronto area. Once you move outside of the biggest city, you always see a decrease in services. So the wonderful thing is, and it's like we're almost a month away. I'm part of a collective of Black service-led agencies and businesses that are putting together an event for Black Mental Health Day. So what's really great is being a part of, I've lived in this region now for 4 years, is being a part of something where we're trying to recognize where there's gaps and trying to address what we can do to meet those gaps. And I find that even has been comforting, because when you're in private practice, especially because I'm by myself, I operate solely on my own. Sometimes you try to, you're in such a silo. You have to remember, like, I'm in supervised practice, so I have somebody to discuss it with, but being able to connect with other practitioners, other service providers. But in terms of looking at healing, like, you know, one of the big differences I personally think Canada to the US is there's a bit more blatancy about the racism in the US, whereas Canadians like to pretend they've always been kind to people who share the same skin color as us. And I'm like, y'all need to start reading, because it is not so. The atrocities that have come out about what has been done in the Indigenous community, and there's probably still so much more to discover. So because we're facing a group of people who often are in denial about what it really was, and the information is there, it's just you got to dig for it because it's not being broadcast, it's not being taught in schools. It feels a lot like it almost looks like we're complaining about something that's not an issue. So there's a certain level of resiliency and fortitude that's required, and I'm sure it's the same thing in the US, to be doing this work and then to be advocating for our needs, and recognizing at the same time we heal in some of the same ways, but we heal in some different ways. And we've got to be intentional about how to provide healing that looks like what we need. And also seek it as practitioners, because we know helpers sometimes are the last people to get help. And so I love that there was already a question about, you know, what Latania does, because it's really important for us to look at too what our healing is. And the options are getting better, but they're still pretty slim where I live.
Yeah. I think what we experience a lot still, there's so much stigma around mental health and getting help and asking for support, because individuals have this thing that I can handle everything by themselves. I want to handle nothing by myself. Okay, not even really like what I want to have for dinner. Can we have a conversation? Can the whole family kind of talk about it? What are you in the mood for? I'm in the mood for this. Oh, let's have a combination of all those things, right? So everybody's happy and satisfied through it. But we're going to take a quick moment here. We have another panelist who's able to join us, Chyna. Thank you so much for joining us. You're actually, there you go. So please introduce yourself and let us know before. We're so happy to have you.
Hey, ladies, I'm Chyna. I don't know, gosh, what do I like to say? I like to consider myself a self-awareness speaker. That's so important to me. It kind of falls in like the mental health area. I like to put it over there just because it's a lot of healing and self-work that kind of goes into self-awareness. So me in a nutshell, I am a 26-year-old mother of two. I love music. I was raised by a single father. And I just value community and connection in the most healthy ways. I feel like I grew up with such a healthy communication and just I don't know, spirit that it's just in me. And I just like to pretty much express and be a part of any movement I can to move Black people forward in a positive direction.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chyna. So I'm going to slide a quick question to you as you on here. As an entrepreneur, and a Black woman. And I asked Latanya the same question around being a mother, because I think that's always an important question for me, around this balance that we have to create between business and motherhood and partnership and personal growth. Like, what are some tips that you think that you can provide to individuals to provide that type of balance?
I think in order to have the balance, I feel like I learned so much more from my kids than I've learned from anybody in my whole life, because kids are actually very just resilient and they bounce back from so many different things. And I mean, they have to juggle all of the things that we have to. It's just more pressure on us to do them than it is them. So I feel like people who need the help in trying to figure out that work-life balance is just to include a little bit more play. Don't feel bad to take time away from your desk or
Mm-hmm.
all that work. All that stuff is going to be there when you get done doing everything you wanted to do with your kids. It's all going to be there. So take that break to be a big kid. And then when you come back to your work, it's like a fresh set of eyes when you're looking at it. Um, and me personally, I know like what sparked me. I went to like a women's convention, and this woman was talking about how she took a nap from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock, and her business was based around that, and that's what I wanted for myself. She talked about she went on vacation every year for her birthday for 3 weeks, and one person was like, "Oh, your boss must really like you," and she was like, "Yeah, because she's me." And
Mm-hmm.
the way she kind of tailored her whole business around her life and not tailored her life around her business is what essentially I'm trying to do. Like my business is gonna have to get in where it fit in because this is who I am. Essentially, this is just the motivation of why I'm going to do this business.
Ooh, I like that, China. I like that a lot. You got me some things to think about. So, Latanya, I got a question for you. Resilience is one of my favorite words, right? It's part of my framework brand, which talks about building resilience, assets, network, and diligence around your mindset. So, when we're talking about resilience, Latanya, what are some of the tools that you would say as an entrepreneur to be resilient through their process of life?
To be
This is what I'm going to say is something that I actually still very much struggle with, but brushing the things off. Like I work so hard, I'll get to this. Y'all know how it is when you get just like that creative spark and it's there, but when it's gone, it's like it's nothing there. I get this imposter syndrome. Like, who do you think you is doing this? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to start your business, So it's just like actually brushing all of those negative things off and not having so many of the excuses because
Got it.
life is gonna happen. So it's just to be resilient is to literally just keep going anyway. And I feel like I've let so many things stop me and just always had an excuse on, well, this happened and that happened, and it's just a now or never kind of thing. That's essentially what resilience equates to, now or never.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. So, Latanya, I want to get you also follow up. What do you think about resilience?
Yeah. So I think with resilience for me is community. For me to be as a therapist, I am sitting and listening all day. That's what I do.
Mhm.
And so to be able to have a community where I feel safe in, where I could just talk
Mhm.
and be me, helps me to keep going. To your point, kind of like those thoughts that are coming in, like, oh, am I supposed to be doing this? Being a first generation anything at this point, I think I and my family am just the first generation everything. And so like finding a space that feels good where I cannot have to therapize people or people think I'm a therapize them, or to
Mhm.
watch a movie and not have to think about what the character's trauma probably is, to just relax because I do that all day. I was like, ooh, what she went through. No, I just want to watch TV. So really finding community, finding a safe space, where I could just talk to be me. A lot of times I find that people, uh, again, how I grew up, people will look at me a certain way. Like, oh, she got this, or she's doing that, or she got this, her son is doing that. And I'm like, I'm just human, y'all. I just made different choices. I'm human.
Mhm.
I still hurt. If you scratch me, I still bleed. Like, I still need someone to talk to. I want to get therapist. I have my own therapist. And so I would say starting 2019, on my own personal healing journey, people, folks, family, friends started to fall off. Whether I pulled back myself or because of what they saw within themselves while looking at me, they pulled themselves back. Because that also happens. I was able to create and really form my friend group. And yes, I have family, but I also know family may still be seeing me in one way. And not understanding who I am as the baby of the family as an adult. So creating my community, and that's around groups like this. So when I think about support groups or like my support circle, some people think of just like having humans or people in them. I count everything. I count the Black owned cafe that's down the street from my house, how I feel while I'm in there, all of my service providers, my dentist, my doctor, my therapist. Everywhere I go, I need to feel loved. If I don't feel loved walking in your office, I ain't gotta be there. My podcast, my books, and of course, again, my friends and my household. So I set up community any and everywhere I go. And if I don't feel that good energy or feel good, I'm gone.
Yeah,
So
I know community's big, and community is a big word for Keisha. So I know she has a lot to say around community because she's built an amazing community of folks who also travel with her often, and experience new types of out in the world. She's also part of my community. We've known each other for a long time now, and we've always just tapped into each other throughout the years. So Keisha, talk a little bit more about community and what that means for you and being part of a community.
Yeah, actually, that's something that I took for granted for a while. Obviously, when the pandemic started, I think a lot of us sort of had that reality check and realized, what roles communities play in our lives. But also, like, as an entrepreneur, um, I do tend to work in a bubble, and again, at the beginning, trying to do all the things myself, and then eventually tapping into that community and seeing like other people and the gifts and what they can bring. And again, like just because I could, doesn't mean I should, right? Like I know how to change a tire, but that don't mean I want to do it. I'll call AAA, so having like that network to not only like bring their skills, but also like to provide that encouragement and accountability. And every time I see you out there, I'm motivated to be out there too, like, just watching you. So I think that's important. But even like, I work from home. So I know like community on the weekends, I'm like, I gotta go find people. I gotta go be around people. And I need to replenish like that interaction. And now that, I'm a traveler and I've been leading into travel, like I'm establishing a global community, and that is so awesome. Like I never thought this would, be part of my life, but it's just like, my friend called me and she's like, "Oh, Queen of Food is going to be in Ghana next month. Why don't you come?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to come, and be part of this bonus event." And like, I never thought that that would be, my community, that, they're having an event in Ghana and I'm being invited to come and participate. And it's just like it's an amazing thing, like just to have this network of great people, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Natasha, you spoke a little bit earlier about that around community for you as well, especially being in an environment where you guys are like first generational people to really be there within that space. So how has it been to create those types of communities with Black women, especially who are entrepreneurs?
I'm going to first start with the best lesson I had in forming community, because I went away to school for university, and it wasn't as big a Black population in our nation's capital in Ottawa. But I learned such a lesson about forming community because we were family. We figured out, you can create family too. And it taught me something that I've carried into life about being intentional, about making the connections, about being bonded with people, about creating community. And so now, even when I look here and I look and I pay attention to what people are doing, there's a social worker here who has created Therapist Lounge, and she sets environments for therapists to come in to learn from other professionals, but also to take a load off, because sometimes, and Keisha and Latania, you might get the same thing. You get in circles where people do the same thing and you talk shop so much, it's more work instead of releasing, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be, but I think even Keisha spoke to it too, is the intentionality to forge those relationships and to connect with people. And so that's something that I know for me, I am charged. I'm a true extrovert. I'm charged by my interactions with people. And so I live in a house by myself. During the pandemic, I was just like, I started missing people I didn't like because I spent so much time alone. So I'm like, I gotta be. The minute I could find ways to be with people, we had a group of us who were hiking every Sunday, and that was a way to try to be safe, but get exercise, but also have community. And then it was, what are the ways that after finding we were getting complacent, getting used to being isolated, how did we purposefully seek it again? And so I'm the one who's normally saying, hey, this group of people, let's do this, let's do that. Because I know how much I benefit from it. And I've had people say, oh, I see all the stuff you do and it looks, oh my gosh, there's almost an speaking to almost being envious, but I'm like, it's a bit of work, but it's so worth it. I just like we talked about, people were talking about scheduling things. I have to schedule my time with people into my life because that's part of what charges me. And one of the things I've learned about my own self-care is seeing myself like a battery. I have to charge my battery, not just stop doing to not drain it as much. So part of how I charge is my connections with the beautiful people in my life who I love dearly.
Yeah, Natasha, you brought up a good point around connections with folks. I love the fact that I got to go to lunch with somebody at least every other week. Lunch, or we could, I don't care. I told a friend of mine, like she's moving to up north to Irvington. And I was like, oh, I can't wait for our group. I'm on Mondays at 1 o'clock. I'm just gonna come and sit on your grass. She said, what? I'm like, yeah, let's just sit on your grass and eat a sandwich. Like just being next to somebody and having that closeness with people is just so powerful. I love connecting with folks in person. Right. And I think, I love the fact that Zoom allows me to be on a call with you in Delaware. Chyna, you even mentioned where you from. I think you're in Missouri somewhere, as your zip code said. But then we have Latania who's over in Chicago. This is amazing, right? But it would be so much cooler if like we met, in like Ghana at that event that Keisha's going to. And just hung out with other people. Right. But it's like we got a lot out of the pandemic. But I think some people, which I'm realizing, is a lot of people still not coming outside, right? Because they feel they have everything next to them. And for me, I feel like they're missing out on that, on stronger bonds by that interpersonal being next to someone. Smelling someone's cologne and smelling someone's perfume, right? That's a different type of connection where you're able to, stimulate all your senses within that relationship, right? So I think that's one of the things I say for folks is like, get outside with people, get into safe places where people who are like-minded, but like Natasha said, not also just talking shop. Let's talk about your favorite peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like what did that look like when you were a kid? Just random conversation. Like, I don't like it. I like orange in my nails, not really red. How about you? Because those things can be fun too, and so much more stimulating.
Yeah. And you said at the beginning, you're such a touch person. That's totally one of my love languages. And
Yeah.
studies show, like, if you hug for 10 seconds, there's healing. By the time you hit 20 seconds, there is like physiological responses in the body that create healing. We cannot do that through Zoom. As much as Zoom is a wonderful tool and we are connected now across 2 countries because I live in Canada. When we are physically in the same space as people, there are things that can be done. We release oxytocin through our physical contact. That's that hormone that creates that feel good feeling. So it's necessary. At least I think so.
Yeah. I see
And
Chyna wants to tap in there.
Just to piggyback off what y'all saying, I am in Missouri. I don't even want to talk about my strong dislike for Missouri. I really don't. But it's hard here, y'all. These Missouri folks, I'm telling you, it gets rough. But just to piggyback off, like you said, the things that Zoom is great, but it doesn't offer like all of those things. Because, like I said, when I went to that women's convention, I'm from a small town in Missouri. I'm from the Boo Hill. My graduating class was like 100 people. So when I go different places and I'm in different types of rooms with different types of women, that is things that, and I actually have like great interactions with those women. That is so affirming and confirming to me in my soul that I am supposed to be somewhere bigger and that I do have bigger potential in me than just where I come from. So I feel like that's a big part about people getting back out and going and doing different things, because like that women's convention that I talked about at first, that was my first time ever being out of the state of Missouri. I flew by myself. I won the convention ticket, and I was like, if I win this ticket, I'm going at all costs. And I went, and it was like so inspiring to be in the room with $1 million women. And I'm just like, I don't even know how I'm gonna pay for my Airbnb to get back to the airport. But it's good to be in here, which like I had such a great experience. And I feel like that's the biggest part of not being scared to go out and interact with other people and be more extroverted, because I'm kind of more of a like a to myself kind of person. But I think that's just more of how my environment made me. Because kind of like Latanya said, people look at me a certain type of way. Like they look at me like I'm just so uppity or something, like I got my nose up. So I'm always more so to myself, but it's really affirming when I go different places or I meet different women like you all, and we all can connect, and it's nothing, nobody's feeling any type of way or doing anything that's just weird to me.
Mhm.
So as a person who feels like I don't really have the greatest experiences in my state that I'm in, it's so helpful. And I feel like I don't think I could have lived through that pandemic this whole time. Like if we would have really just still been shut down, or if we shut down again, Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be
Yeah.
so
Thanks for sharing that, China. I agree with you. It's like, and I love being in spaces, or I create spaces like I have the Black Girl Everything Retreat, which is dope. It's actually coming up in March, y'all. If you're interested in coming, March 14th through the 16th. That's what it
okay.
does, because I started my business during the pandemic, and I had my first outdoor event that October, and I had my first retreat that February, that March of 2021. And to be in that space with like 50 women, it was like, oh my gosh, people, right? And to connect. So now we're in our fourth year of doing it, and it's the same energy every time I walk into the room. I cry every Friday night, every single time, because I'm so excited to see folks who are still want to connect with in that type of way and be in the space that we provide through that actual event. But here's my question for you. So
Just
now,
interject though before you go
go
on
ahead.
to the next question. It's not just the people. It's not just being in a space with people. You're in a space with some amazing people, and the women in the network are doing such great things. It's
Yeah.
inspiring, it's uplifting, and they're so supportive of each other. So it's not like, it's just 50 people existing, but it's 50 people just like really like lifting each other up and bringing like, their talents. I haven't been to a retreat, but I've been, to some events, and it's really inspiring. It's really motivating.
Hmm.
And you just feel like you're being held, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. The BGE family, we have, I don't, I, it became everything that I never thought I wanted it to be. Right? It was just supposed to be an event, and now it's just like this group of folks who we just hang out and just have a good time, and I think that holding each other is a big part of it, right? And knowing each other in real life is an even bigger part of it, because people call me with their real life, and I'm like, all right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. And let's talk about the things that really, really matter to individuals. And I think that's the biggest part for me, is that we're so connected beyond our businesses
Yeah.
within the network. It's more than just a business. It's about who we are as people. So I agree with you, Keisha. Thank you. You're right. All right. But so I am going to slide into this next question. And it aligns with that same thought process. Now, as for leaders or people who will be watching this video later who have organizations, right? And I think this is what I really want to tap into, especially around wellness, is when you're managing a space with Black women, right? Or even just women in general, what can you put within that space, right, to support? I don't want to say camaraderie. Everybody's talking about morale, right? Morale's been a big old word since like the 60s, 70s, like the 80s, the 90s. We're past morale. But what are we going to do in our spaces to ensure that everyone feels supported? So, Latanya, I'm going to start with you. What can someone who's running an organization put in place, or for those who are growing out their businesses as an entrepreneur and they start hiring folks, what are some of the things they should put in place to ensure a healthy work environment? Go.
So that will ensure a healthy work environment.
Yeah, like what are some things?
The first thought I had was vulnerability. Create
Yeah.
a space where folks can be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that vulnerability builds community and relationships. So if I'm, and not just for the folks that you're bringing on and hiring, but from leadership. I came from working as a school social worker where it was like we not showing emotions, and I was like, wait, what? Like, I said,
In a
what?
school.
Yeah. Like, ew, that just feels bad. And just like this front that I feel like we had to put on all the time. Um and wanting to run the self-assign in a way where you like, yes, you see the business aspect, but also the emotional, the vulnerability of like, whoo, like you get to see both sides of me. You get to see all of me, that holistic part, right? That you get to see
Yeah.
all of me, the authenticity. So I think vulnerability first and foremost.
Mhm.
And I think knowing your for the leader, knowing knowing yourself and like
Mm,
what environment that you want to create. So knowing yourself, understanding the environment that you want to create and bringing those people on that
mm,
support that also. So I think I'm learning for myself like what, and I have another clinician, I have an intern, but really understanding like for my vision for the self inside, who I want to, so who's going to support the mission. So if I'm looking
yeah.
for Reiki practitioners, I'm looking for folks that's into spirituality, but also that's going to dive deep into your childhood. Like I'm looking for those people. So uh, it- and I got the word. It's like right here, y'all. But it's like just really, really being vulnerable, really, really understanding your people, your own purpose and your vision for your company, and bringing those people on that support that. Because I think it needs to feel good to those people you bring on, but also yourself.
You talking about
Yeah.
alignment? Is that the word? Being aligned? People who
Yes,
are aligned?
it's like it's right there.
Yeah.
Yes, that are aligned with your vision and your purpose of your business.
Perfect, Latanya. Go ahead, Keisha. Go ahead and add on to that because you know a little bit about alignment, especially as you're working with especially in a group practice type section. You have
Yeah.
there's multiple personalities, people. So it's like,
Yeah.
what are you putting in place as to support the culture of the space? Because I find a lot of people that work in environments that they don't like going to. And I'm just like,
Mm,
why are you still there? That's
right.
that always kills me. Never makes sense to me. Like I run a school, like I run places. I have currently about over 30 employees, right? So, and that's a lot of people to manage in a space and to get through in a space. And I find that individuals, like I'm very vulnerable. I walk in there and tell them like, today's not the day, y'all. I love you all, but don't knock on my door, right? Because I know that I'm not going to be able to give my best self within that space. And that's okay because we're all human. But Keisha, talk to me. What are some of the things that you would say for as all of us as entrepreneurs? Most people want to get to the space where, we can just travel the world and take 3 weeks off for our vacation. That means you're going to have people on your team to support your organization. So what are the things you think that help support that be possible?
I definitely agree with the alignment, right? You want people who have a similar mission. Maybe their
Mhm.
methods may be different, which I think that's also great, but a similar mission. And when I talk to people who join the practice, one of the things that I ask is like, what are your goals? And being willing to support their goals, not just having my agenda, but seeing like how we can
Mhm.
mutually benefit each other. Like they're not going to stay if they're not getting anything out of it, right? So I
Mhm.
want to know what their goals are so I can help to support it. And overall, like with that, the basic listening,
Yeah.
listening to people and just I can say, oh, we need this, we need that, and this will be great, but that might not be what they need,
Yeah.
right? What I need and what they need may not be the same thing. So I want to listen to them and ask them, like, what is it that's going to help you feel supported?
Yeah. Make sure we're having the same conversation. China, you have something you would add to that?
Last her last statement is really like the easiest thing that I don't think anybody ever thinks about. If you're gonna put a bunch of women in a room, why not just ask them before they get there what they need to feel supported in that moment? But um, I feel like that's it. I mean, I feel like leaders have to be open to constructive criticism. And that
Mhm.
ties into the vulnerability and the listening.
Yeah.
Um, when I was younger, being raised by a man, me being vocal was mandatory. I was never to bite my tongue. That's one of the few things I would really, really get in trouble for. And I remember we had one night out of the week, and my dad calls them powwows. And we would sit down and he would talk to me about how I felt about anything in the world. And if he did something to me that I did not like, or he yelled at me in any type of way that I did not like, I could tell him that and he would apologize and we could figure out how to, move forward from that. And I think that is something that leaders would really benefit from. You know, you see the rise and fall of every kingdom because the king forgets who they're serving and what they're doing. So I think that that plays a big part in what will help women and just different people that you're trying to hire and bring into things. That will help them a lot. If they feel like their voice matters, just like Keisha said, if they feel like they matter and they're getting something out of the situation, their opinions are taken into account, everything is also mutually benefiting them, that is going to help so many people who choose to be workers. You know, everybody's not everybody does not want to be the boss. So it's how to keep the people who want to do the work happy and feeling supported in that process. And I feel like a lot of people have those times that they want to tell their boss, like, hey, you did this and I don't like that. And that's not how you handle me. Because that's one
Yeah.
of the things for me when I speak to self-awareness, that's one of the things I definitely talk about. We're going to teach you how to establish healthy boundaries in that workplace because just because that person signs your paycheck does not mean they get to treat you like a piece of crap. Like that's just not how the balance should be. So I think constructive being willing as a leader to take constructive criticism from your, I don't want to say employees, but I mean like
From your team.
just whatever, yeah, from your team,
Mhm.
that would be so helpful to the leader and them because you're only going to continue to get better, you're going to grow, you're going to develop, and those people are going to be more inspired to grow and develop with the company to continue working for you.
Exactly, Shannon. Exactly, exactly. And I agree with that 1000% about being open, especially around the conversation about what's working and what's not working. I love those conversations. When it's how I start off every single meeting that I have with any team member that I have. It's like, what's working? Okay, now what's not working? Right. And let's really listen to their opinion about it. And we're able to continue to grow within our workspaces because of that. So Natasha, what are some of the things as we begin to wrap up this amazing panel here? Talk to well, not necessarily to me, talk to all the millions of people who's going to watch this because it's going to go viral. Right? Tell us about all the millions of people who want to watch this tonight and how can they continue to focus on their wellness within their journey, especially as an entrepreneur. Last thoughts.
Well, my answer is going to date me. It's going to show that I'm not 20. But I tell people to think about a tuner radio with all the little slots. And when you
Mhm.
used to move the dial and there'd be static until you hit that right spot. And I always equate that to checking in with yourself. We've got to
Mm,
keep tuning till we get clarity. And so that's the process we're always going through when there's static in life, zoning in enough to get that clarity and then learning from yourself. What is it I need right now? What is maybe missing? What do I need to do more of? Whatever that is, in order to, the word balance has been used, and I think, we rarely have 100% balance where we feel like everything's all on the same level, but it's still that element of how do I work towards the best level of balance that I can achieve in any given area at any given
mhm.
time. Latania is the example of there's times where she's leaning more into her son because he's not at daycare, he's present, right? That makes sense. There are times where, when we're on vacation, we're going to lean more into our leisure, perhaps. Or, like you said, there's a scheduled day off. But finding that, I think we live in a world where we have learned to live in noise and we have to seek quiet. So one of my big lessons in 2024 was to intentionally seek solitude and not to see solitude as a bad thing. So rather than seeing it as a lonely place, I see it as a place where I now get solace and it gets quiet enough for me to hear what I need to hear. And so that's been a big lesson for me in trying to figure out all the moving pieces of life, is seeking solitude and tuning that radio all the time to try to get to those spots where the message is clear because there's not enough static to drown out what I need to hear.
Yeah, I like that tuning the radio. I know how to tune the radio. I remember that. And you are right. And I'm gonna think about that one. I have so much static. It's like this. I gotta tune my radio. I'm gonna tap into that. I love that. Thank you so much. Latanya, what are some of your last thoughts?
I actually agree with Natasha, like that checking in with yourself. So I also do Reiki. So I try daily to hit like my own chakras. I recently have been doing a lot of work around self-worth, self-esteem, being an entrepreneur. Man, you kind of you just you hit the wall a little bit. You feel lonely in private practice. I have, like I said, an intern clinician, but it's still just me. So I'm tapping into self-worth and learning more about that just through my own healing journey. And so the checking in with myself is so important. So again, I think I said this earlier too, like first thing in the morning, I'm asking myself using my mind's voice, okay, am I okay? Let's do a body scan, starting with my big toe all the way up to my crown, just scanning my body, see how I'm feeling. If I feel any tightness or tingling, I'm like, that ain't no good tingle. Let's check in and see what's happening there. And so letting myself cry, be angry, whatever it is. So I really, really do agree with checking in with yourself, releasing and clearing out whatever is there if you can, and then setting your intention for the day. If I know I'm feeling anxious or sadness and it's present in my chest first thing that morning, child, I'm not gonna get it out in 15 minutes. So I need to structure my day, how to take care of myself, but also my clients and my son and whoever else I'm interacting with. So really checking in with myself, for everybody to check in with themselves and learn what that means for them, is if it's through journaling, meditation, sitting in silence. I am good for going in the bathroom, shut off the light, and just sitting there. That is my place. It has always been my place, the bathroom, where I could just like block out everything. And if you're in the bathroom, not too many people gonna mess with you.
Yeah. My secret place is my car.
And it used to be my car with me working from home, I'm just here. And so I hide out in the bathroom, whatever. I hope they don't hear me there now. But just checking in with yourself and making sure you're okay, releasing what you can and what you need. If learning how to release, because a lot of us don't know how to release the things, so checking advice and make that connection. And then moving forward with that, well, whatever you want. We often get told that being selfish is a bad thing, but I say you got to start with yourself, child. We're all of the time, so you have to start with yourself. So go ahead and be selfish.
Yeah, choose you all day long. Keisha, final thoughts?
Yeah, I just do want to that tuning in the radio, I love that. I love it. And I don't know if you guys remember, you could have it tuned in and then all of a sudden it ain't tuned no more and you got to go back and readjust it. So that's why I love that analogy. It's perfect. And also when you were talking about balance, I went to a retreat a while back and the retreat leader had said to me, it's not about balance, it's about harmony. Right. And as you said, balanced things are equal, they're evenly spread out. We don't want a balance, we want a harmony, that things are flowing and interacting in a way that works for us. But for my suggestion is to make a commitment to yourself, right? Yes, we're important, we prioritize ourselves and understanding the reasons why. Like what's going to happen if you don't commit to yourself? What's going to happen, if you don't prioritize yourself. And it doesn't have to be a whole routine in the morning where you're meditating for 30 minutes and then doing yoga and then going for a run. 10, 15 minutes. Take out 10, 15 minutes each day to prioritize yourself. And that could look different every day. It's whatever it is that you need.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Chyna?
Um, Final thoughts. I would say I found a lot of strength in exploring areas of weakness. So by that, I just mean on the days that I feel weak or the things that I don't feel that I'm the best at, it makes me feel good on the days that I get up and do the things that I'm not so good at or I've never tried before
Mm-hmm.
because that's just a affirmation of how strong I actually am or how much talent I actually do have. That shows the resilience, that shows the motivation. So I feel like final thoughts is just to find strength in your weakness because I know that Dillis told me about Black Girl Everything and I applied and that was just it. But I mean, just look at me. Like nobody around me does these things. So it's just like, look at me, like just putting myself out there and doing different things. And I think that will really help people if they get up every day and just pick one thing that they're not the greatest at and do it and see how good you do it that day. And if you don't do it good that day, try something else the next day. Shoot, I don't know. Just all I got my screensaver is feel it, meditate, move on. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
An emotion is only supposed to last 90 seconds. It's only meant to last 90 seconds. So just
That's it.
keep moving. Be strong,
Perfect.
keep moving.
Thank you so much, Chyna. So for me, my final thoughts is, y'all know I'm Dr. Glow and I'm super dope, right?
See?
But I want to thank you all for tuning in for this panel today around wellness, especially particularly in this month. I was very intentional about this month. So I want people to take out time for themselves, and make sure you continue to choose you. Like everything you all said, it all hit like literally it was all parts of my life from last week, from selfish, be selfish. Your weaknesses are your superpowers, right? And then making sure you're always choosing you. There's nothing wrong with that. So I think individuals need to continue to choose themselves because no one is going to choose you but you. And if you're not choosing you, nobody's noticing you anyway, right? Because you're not putting yourself out enough for people to even see you the way you need to be seen. So authenticity is everything, and I'll just rock out with it. So again, I want to thank you ladies for tuning in and actually participating with me today in this panel. It was amazing. So many great gems, like tuning that radio. I cannot wait to drop that one, Natasha. I'm telling you, I'm dropping that one. I'm writing it down. I write down cool things that people say all the time.
I had a
Tuning.
colleague who's like, you need to write a book because she's like, I say things, she's like, who says that? I'm like, I don't know, they just come.
Yeah, write them down.
Can't keep them to yourself. You gotta share.
Yeah, and email them to me in like voice notes. I would love it because I want to hear your voice because I want to be connected. All
I
right,
actually
y'all.
did a talk last week and somebody said they're like, you should have brought this point up earlier. And I'm like, they don't realize it wasn't planned because it was in the Q&A. It was spontaneous, but I was like, mental note, that's helpful.
Exactly,
Use it
exactly. It's
again.
never in the Q&A. It's always what just pops out of my head. People pull me aside, hey, can you come and talk? I'm like, yeah. Like, what are you going to talk about? I said, I don't know. It's just going to happen when I start opening my mouth. And the words come out that need to come out during that time. So thank you again, ladies, for all this. For those who were looking for this full video, who tuned in later, it's going to be available on YouTube. The Black Girl Everything YouTube channel is also going to be shared with these beautiful women so they can post it if they have YouTube channels. I'm not sure if they do. They'll have the content to be able to utilize it. Make sure you follow them. All their informations are in the captions. And everybody have a blessed night. Thank you.
Thank you.